A soldier, an airman, and a Marine walk into a room. This show is the punchline. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and you're watching Veteran Talk Show. All right, guys. So in case you don't know, we are an affiliate for Soldier Girl Coffee Company. I'm super excited about this because they have amazing coffee. And in future episodes, you will see us drinking Soldier Girl coffee. They also have a CBD coffee. So if you need some CBD, which helps support your health in a sense of relaxation, it helps with your sleep and your overall health on a day-to-day basis, then Soldier Girl Coffee has both that and the caffeine you need. So be sure to check out the link in the show notes. Go ahead and click that, shop around, and make sure you get yourself some Soldier Girl Coffee today. That's what you sound like.
Like a man? Yeah, I know. That is what I sound like. Because I'm a fucking Marine. I don't wear faggoty ass beret. We're still recording because I probably shouldn't have said that. That's politically incorrect. I don't care.
It's the very beginning, so I probably wouldn't mind cutting it out.
Okay. Well, now,
once it gets too deep into it, sometimes I give up.
Well, we'll just start. We'll just cut everything out up till action.
We got to get one of those things. Hire a producer.
Dude, what would a producer do for us other than sit there? And if we hired someone, he'd probably just sit in my house and smoke weed. You'd just be like, "Oh man, this is great. You guys are doing great."
Once it's generating revenue to justify it, which a lot of it depends on how much I put into it, and I've got resources on the site, but it's just slow going because I work a full-time job. But if I paid someone, I don't know about producer as a title, I would probably let them call themselves whatever they want, but they're going to do all the stuff I'm doing. They're going to do. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's probably an hour or two a week.
Right.
So the way I picture it is somebody who already does that, like for a living.
Yeah.
So it's like just insert, or maybe get a college student or something.
I'm surprised the dogs are as chill as they are today.
What? So they didn't have. I think she said dog church
doesn't run during the summer.
That's what she said.
It doesn't run. It's only from like September to April or something.
So is she a regular church then? Is that how that works?
No, she went to a party.
It's Saturday,
birthday party.
So that would be a little weird.
Yeah, she went to we don't go to church in this house.
I mean,
not saying that we're well, she's an atheist.
The church, your body is your temple. I'm gonna get myself into trouble.
Yeah, you
keep going.
Yeah. She's an atheist. I'm just kind of, I guess you would say I was agnostic.
I feel like if you're not anything, then you have to be agnostic.
Well,
if you don't,
no, atheism. So atheism is you don't believe in anything.
Right.
Right. Being agnostic means
God came and then he left.
Like, no,
he was like,
there is,
look what I made. Bye.
Like you're not willing to discount that there is a
higher power
or a higher power.
That's why I said, I feel
I'm
like
I'm not going to church. I don't do the whole church. Like I don't do religion because of going to Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, that
was your rude awakening. And
so I was baptized as a Catholic. I never got confirmed, but I was like, I used to go to church up until I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And I just stopped. And no, everybody always asks, did you have something happen with a priest? I'm like, no, nothing ever happened with a fucking priest. It's a lame ass joke.
It's not super lame whenever they figure out how to repackage it.
Yeah.
I do appreciate a new
take on it.
Yeah.
But no. So, I mean, but like going overseas, like and dealing with people who are like, just doing evil shit in the name of religion. I mean, people would do, and our guys too. I mean, our guys would be fine. I knew guys who were fine with killing people. Not like innocent people, they were just fine in general with the idea of killing, as long as it was someone who was not a Christian. Like, because they were like it was our. Oh,
you were talking
infidel.
about the chow conversations while you're waiting on your MRE to heat up, and somebody. Well, you said fine killing people, and I feel like the military in general, most guys are trained to kill. So I don't think I would ever hesitate on the trigger.
But there's a difference between having to do it, I think, because you're in that situation and you need to do it, and getting enjoyment or pleasure out of it.
Okay, so but you said they're fine doing it. So are you saying that
I knew some guys who got off on it a little bit.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, like, and their justification was it's okay. They don't believe in Jesus, so it's fine. I'm like, really? That's your.
It's okay. They don't believe in
all right.
Jesus.
I was like, I'm doing it because I have to, because I want to go home.
Yeah,
like I have, but that's where like the emotional response for me stops. It's like I had no feeling. I mean, I was, I think, a true sociopath about it. I was like, no feeling for or against.
Yeah,
I didn't like, I wasn't like, yeah. And I wasn't like, oh man.
I agree
terrible.
and I disagree. So that's always something that's interested me, is like one of my favorite movies is Mr. Brooks. So it's about a serial killer, and Dane Cook is in it for like 5 minutes.
First of all, wow. Yeah. That's going back. Is he even still a thing? Like,
have you seen that movie? No. So Dane Cook actually took a pretty big hit because of his brother, who was his manager.
I know about
did an
that
article that like totally.
I know about that, but first of all, I never liked Dane Cook as a stand-up.
We just lost half our audience.
I don't care. I'm allowed not to like a stand. I did. It's not like it's
didn't they make fun of him in South Park and Family Guy?
Probably.
I know they did in South Park.
Probably
like hardcore too.
I think the only thing I'd seen him in that I was like, fuck yeah, that's hilarious, was Waiting.
Okay.
Where he was
I like Waiting.
Cook.
I really like Waiting.
And he had a very small role in that.
I like Employee of the Month.
His stand, his stand up to me is not like, it's not my go-to for stand up.
I think I enjoyed his stand up when it came out, and I heard it for the first time. It's the second time that it was like,
this really isn't all that funny.
He's yelling, so that makes it funny.
Yeah, I don't know. His look, and if you like him, that's fine. Like, look, it's hard to be a stand-up, I'm sure. Like, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand up and get on stage and tell a bunch of jokes.
Well, I guess
I have no idea how those guys like can do it. No, I haven't seen the movie.
Mr. Brooks.
Mm-mm.
So
never even heard of it.
Spoiler alert, he kills him.
Not gonna watch it.
He kills him. He kills Dane Cook. So the premise of the movie, or at least their relationship, is that Dane Cook wants, I think he sees him kill someone, and so he uses that to blackmail him into teaching him how to kill someone or letting him kill someone. And then Mr. Brooks decides this is getting out of control, whatever. And he basically has him dig his own grave and then kills him, and he falls into it.
No.
But that and I really like the TV show Dexter.
I liked the first couple of seasons of Dexter.
So the reason that I say I think you've got it right as far as you're a sociopath as it relates to you had no feeling one way or the other.
It was like, okay, I was scared shitless going into a firefight. I'll tell you that right now. Like
pucker factor.
Oh, you do. So when you're on patrol and you hear like, I think I was one of a handful of guys that felt this way. Like you'd be on patrol and you'd hear like the ICOM chatter start going off and be like, oh, we see the Americans. We're going to shoot. That would go on for like hours on your patrol. Like
you guys picked up shit like that?
Huh? Yeah, we had.
When you say patrol, like walking or
walking
Humvees?
Walking patrol. And we didn't get really in vehicles. So this was Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, we didn't get in vehicles.
But you didn't have anything similar to a Duke that would like cut off their comms?
No.
Because like
we had, oh, you mean the ECM packs like that you would walk around?
I don't know what it looks like mobile, but on the trucks, it's a giant ass antenna.
Yeah.
It's got 2 switches.
Yeah. So they had those on the vehicles to like block signals for an IED. And then in Iraq, we had them to block signals. Like they look like basically like radios. Like you put a backpack on, it's an ECM, and like probably why I don't have kids is because I've had to wear that thing. It's just it's a frequency jammer. And you would just go on patrol. And so that could prevent people from like pressing a garage door open or like sending a telephone. But in Afghanistan, our Terp would just walk around with like a Radio Shack walkie-talkie. And he would listen to the Taliban talking back and forth to each other.
Their comms suck.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
If you can just pick them up by like, oh, I found this at the bazaar.
Yeah. And they would just listen to
them.
And sometimes we'd encourage him to talk back to him, be like, fucking do it, bro. Like, but no, walking around a patrol, he'd be walking with that little radio he had, and he would be listening to everything that they were saying. He would just be screaming out to the entire patrol. So if you were on like a 3-hour dismounted patrol,
everything,
every 2 minutes you would hear the Terp go, "They see us. They're going to shoot at us." That's all it was for like, and like after a while, you're just like fucking shut, put your money where your fucking mouth is. Like, cause you don't know where they are.
The most annoying part about that is I just know that they're,
well, sometimes they were just straight, they were just straight fucking with us.
Well,
like,
yeah,
they would
but
just
they
straight
didn't
fuck with us about
because they wouldn't be like, okay, we have American troops to the north by this hill.
Oh, you didn't know if they were talking about you or
that's
another
what
patrol.
I'm saying. It's like we see the Americans, they see us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Like you don't know who they see, dude. Like they're not dropping like 10-digit grids.
Plus, like
where they're going and shooting an azimuth saying they're this direction and mills. They're just like, so you'd be on patrol. So. That's the part I hated is like you'd be on patrol and you'd hear that for
they
see us. They're going to shoot. They're about to shoot at us any minute now. Like you just hear that and you're just like, you kind of get tense up. You're like, all right, well, where the fuck are they going to shoot at me from? That was always the worst part. And we're texting. You should put
I'm double checking on his unit real quick.
Whose unit?
Dustin's.
Oh, is he your buddy's going to join in on us?
Yeah, because the other thing too is because I'll forget this sometimes, especially when I have people on that I was stationed with. Like my buddy Charles that came up from Bragg. I forget that number one, people can reclass.
Yeah.
So especially like him, he's been in for 15 fucking years. So he's not, we went through and we trained as MPs together and he's no longer an MP. And then number two, sometimes people I knew or hung out with, like one of my best friends and my first roommate in the Army was actually our commo guy. So I forget sometimes that all of us didn't have the same job so I was in a line unit except for in Germany, and that was pretty, not being in a line unit over there was pretty irrelevant because it was IMCOM. So you kind of only knew the people in your job because I don't know if you know how any of that works, but basically IMCOM is like the company or battalion that runs the post.
Dude, the only guys I knew were the guys in like my platoon and my company.
So while I was in Germany, I wasn't deploying anywhere.
Yeah.
Not while I was part of IMCOM. If I had gone to the line, then I knew guys that went to
I knew some other guys in like within my battalion who were in different companies.
Well,
only probably because I went to boot camp with them. But other than that, I mean, like I wouldn't have, if you weren't in Fox company, I really probably did not know you.
Yeah. I mean,
like I did not see a lot of outsiders. Like the only time I interacted with other Marines around Lejeune is if I was at like the 7-Day store or if I went to French Creek Chow Hall, like, which was the nice chow hall. And like, that was the Pogue Chow Hall, but we would go out there to get like good food.
To see how the commoners live.
To see. Well, we were the serfs. They were like treated like royalty. I mean, they had like rotisserie chickens and shit out there.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was nice. Like they had some good shit. Like the chow hall over at Hospital Point where I was they just had like sandwiches.
So did you
The breakfast bar was pretty awesome, but that's about it.
Sandwiches? What are you having for lunch? Sandwich.
I'm gonna go get a chicken parm sub.
Another sandwich. That reminded me of the one on Stryker on Victory Base Complex, because you'd have like DFAX into Flurry, which was across from the pad that we were on, the one we went to most often, most of the deployment. It was all right, you know. Everybody liked Sergeant Major Cook DFAC. That was on Taji. But the one on Stryker, you go in. I've talked about this before, dude. Taco bar, salad.
Nope,
bar,
didn't have any of that.
Sandwich bar.
Cab Rawa, they were building a DFAC when I left Cab Rawa, but it was like they had the shit. If you were on Cobb, so that we had actually nicer food at our TCP than they had at Cab Rawa, because Cab Rawa, you had the little green containers where it's like the
mermites,
the mermite shit, and like that's what they had at Cab Rawa. Whereas we would actually get we would get shits like shipped to us as resupply. That was like they would give us like the little individual like cups of cereal with milk, and they give us milk. They give us like Hot Pockets.
Yeah.
And shit. And so like we had a little microwave. So it was like a lot nicer than what they had at Cab Rawa. And then in Afghanistan, they would just occasionally drop the big boxes where you would like pull the tab out real fast, and that would heat the meal up. And then after like 2 minutes, you'd open it up and just spoon it out. And you had like a little tray and you'd eat that.
That's crazy.
Like we didn't have
some of the things
like hot chow.
So first of all, I've only ever heard other people talk about COBs and COPS, and I'm sure the B stands for base, but I don't know what is the difference between that and a FOB, or like
a FOB is a forward operating base.
I know that, but I mean, because basically VBC was multiple FOBs, and it was just
all together.
C was complex, so you could go from one to another one without leaving the wire. If you didn't need to like go on mission or something, if you just wanted to go, like if you were on Cropper, which was the TIF, and you wanted to go to the big PX.
No, cops were
to get your case.
Cops were like company operating areas, so that's where your company was. So like in Afghanistan, you flew into
Leatherneck. We just never called it that.
Yeah, so you like flew into Leatherneck, which was like the big base, was like the southern Afghanistan's Bagram, right? It's huge air base right next to whatever the British base was called. I can't remember. Bastion. That's it. Bastion. So Bastion and Leatherneck were right next to each other. That was the big airfield.
Yeah.
And then from there, you would fly to FOB Dwyer. And so you flew south and you went to FOB Dwyer. And that was kind of like where your battalion headquarters were, right? Or maybe there's like a couple of battalions there. I actually never went to FOB Dwyer. I had no clue. And then from there, you had COBs, where the companies would fly into. And this was where so like the highest ranking person I had in my AO was my company commander.
Oh, that's crazy.
In Afghanistan. Afghanistan was a lot different than Iraq. Like in Iraq, we had it was called Cab Rawa because at the time so we had El Asad, which was like Bagram. It was a huge base, and then you had we went straight to Cab Rawa, and then out from there again. That was company size, but there were other elements there. So there was like an army element there. I think they had a striker force or something there. Navy SEALs were there. And then you had us. So it was a little bit bigger. And then out from Cab Rawa, my company had areas around the city of Rawa that were called TCPs, which were just tactical
control points.
Yeah, we tactical control points is what we called them. Well, or at least that's what they were told me they were.
And what's interesting about it is what you said, and why I got into that to begin with is because you were like, we had better food at our TCP. And so coming from the world of MPs, so obviously TCP could mean, MPs have 5 major functions. One of those is law enforcement. You're working the road. especially on Fort Polk, but at Fort Hood they did it some too. Like the cars pulled out, you turned the lights on at flag call, and you got out and saluted the flag.
Nope.
So that's a traffic control point. The traffic light goes out and you get out. That's garrison. That's all garrison. Traffic light goes out and you get out and you direct traffic. Then in a combat environment, we not just rolled, we went through this in training, like with our units, once we were assigned to our units, in case we had to do that. Hey, what does a TCP look like? What are some of the different purposes? Why do you set up slalom in case?
For us, for TCPs were literally little patrol bases. Okay. So you would drop like a platoon or even like a squad sized element there, and that's where they would operate out of. So if you needed them to go out on security patrols, they could go out on security patrols. If they my platoon in Iraq was separated between a bridge. So that we had 2 TCPs on either side of a bridge. And part of our job that we did 24 hours a day was monitoring the traffic that crossed that bridge. That bridge was a target of the insurgency. So part of our job was to guard the bridge, but we didn't just sit there. Like we also had to go out on patrols. Yeah. So we would do dismounted patrols. We would go out and we'd walk around the city and engage with the locals. We would go out into the desert trying to find poo sites for where they were launching mortars from. We would go out and we would do raids. Like we'd meet up with other, like they'd get a section of us and then we'd go like, hey, we need 5 guys from TCP to come over in Humvees over to this TCP. And we're going to link up and then go to the police station and link up with, 2nd platoon. And we're going to go be part of a raid, and we'd go do that. So
I thought that was interesting because
we just called them TCPs. I mean, I think mine was like TCP 5 or TCP 4 or something.
Yeah. So when I think about it, especially in a deployed environment, the traffic control points that we used, we didn't really run any. We're going in and outside the wire when you come through.
Yeah, these weren't traffic. I mean, so we call them tactical. So like they were set up in areas where. So there were some TCPs that had.
So I think what we probably would have called them, it just depends because like the way my brain works or what I'm thinking about right now, because it sounds like you had an identifier for battalion, company, platoon, squad.
Yeah. So in Afghanistan, we didn't call them TCPs.
Like, our entire company was on the same pad.
Yeah. So in Afghanistan, we didn't call them TCPs. We called them PBs.
Like bases. Me coming up with a name for my room.
Yeah, so
my roommate.
We flew into we called it Cobb Sharp, which was named after a Marine who was killed during when they went to this area. I mean, there was like an invasion of this area like 3 months before we got there.
Oh shit!
And like so where we were, nobody had been since the start of the war. So this was part of the surge back in 2009. And the unit that was there before us, they had a guy named Sharp. So their company base that they named was called Cobb Sharp. So that's where we flew into. And then from there, my platoon went to what we just called PB, patrol base. So we went to PB Lakari, which was just patrol base Lakari. So my platoon and first platoon for the first month or so operated out of PB Lakari. And then first platoon broke off and went east or west. I can't remember the direction.
Right or left one.
Yeah, they went right. They went further into the valley, and crossed the route at a bridge, and they took a building, and we ended up calling that PB Hand. And so you had PB Hand, PB Amir, or PB Hand, PB Lakari, and then we left Lakari and went into the market, and we called the market PB Amir.
That's crazy.
So we just called them PBs.
What peanut butter? What was on
patrol base?
What was on these things? Like, was there anything? Do you guys have chow hall, bathroom, gym? That's what doesn't make any sense to me. Is you're calling it like a patrol base, but it's like
we didn't have hard structures. Like it's just like the gym was literally like, hey, we found a tree that's pretty straight. We chopped down and like attached 2 sandbags to it, and they're using that as like dumbbells.
And how long would you guys stay there? Was it
the entire deployment?
So you had like places to live. But
so we had like
sites, so they were like
so at first it was just the buildings that we occupied. So when we flew into when we went into PB Amir, there were tents already there. And the tents didn't have cots, so we just kind of slept on the floor. And then we got cots, and we were like, "Yeah!" And
it's
then
the greatest day ever.
And then when we took the market, we took PB Amir. At first, there was like we took a qual of like 3 buildings. That was like a little compound of like three or four buildings, 3 or 4 structures within that little compound.
Yeah.
That's where we slept until we like built up our defenses. And eventually, like I have a great photo of taken in the exact same spot. One was taken, I think, within the first 24 hours of us going into the market and taking this building. And the next one was like right, like a month or two, probably not even that, probably like a couple of weeks before we left. And you can kind of see the change. It's literally in the exact same spot on the exact same wall with my squad. And like in the background, you can see there's like literally nothing. And then in the second picture, you can see like the Afghan flag, and you can see like concertina wire and like the comm towers and all of that, like that we had built up.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just what our mission was. But we had nothing. I mean, it was the most we had was like a tent and some generators. That was it. That was all we had. Like there wasn't like a chow hall. There wasn't like we didn't even get PX.
That's why I tell people my deployment was cush.
Oh, when I tell people like it was night and day. Iraq to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Like in Iraq, I had a mobile PX that would come to me. I think once every 2 weeks. I had like if we needed to run back to the Cobb for anything, like we could easily get back to the Cobb, no problem. Like getting to the Cobb in Afghanistan, I mean, it was
but that's why I say that, because
I think
even though we were both in Iraq, I mean, it wasn't like a mobile PX. It was like across the street there was one of those that was semi-permanent. Then there was an entire U shape where you had an MWR, you had a rug store, you had the DVD, the little Turkish guys coming in and selling all their wares, kind of like a bazaar, but it wasn't under one roof. And then right next to it, you had a giant ass chow hall. And then if none of that suited your fancy, you could just go down the street to Camo Hill. I'd say had to be a solid 5 miles, maybe. Big PX where Toby Keith played with Cinnabon and Taco Bell and Pizza Hut.
So
and then, you had a cell phone store. You had an internet place, and that's where you went to get the internet on the back of your hooch.
So I think Cobb Rawa, by the time we left, they actually built like hard structures there for us to sleep in. The TCP, we slept in Connex boxes. So like they had a Connex box that someone had cut that they had. So they basically, you went inside the Connex box. They built like on the entranceway, they built like a wall with a door and an AC unit. And then you go inside and it was insulated. Like they put plywood up with insulation in it. And then they built 2, 4, 6 racks, 6 bunks in an L shape. And then that's where you slept. Oh. So since we only had a squad in that thing, I mean, it was me. I'm gonna use their nicknames: McNuggets, Pumpkin Nuts, J-Hop. It was just, and that was pretty much who lived in that Connex box.
McNuggets.
Yeah.
Pumpkin what?
Pumpkin Nuts. I'm not going to use their real names. I don't,
That's just funny. Like it makes me wonder because so we had.
You want to know about how did they get those nicknames? McNuggets.
Like not just regular nuggets.
Yeah, McNuggets.
Okay.
Some of them are great stories. Some of them are like very underwhelming stories. Like you're like, oh well, that makes sense. The other ones you're like, oh shit, that's fucked up. That's a good nickname for that story.
We had I think one of my favorites was just his last name was Schmidt, but there was no D.
I knew a guy. So I knew a guy's last name. So his last name, no one could pronounce. It was very, well, I think it's Italian. I think it was Italian.
Alphabet.
No, we called him Scat Tits because it sounded so familiar, so similar to his last name. So we just called him Scat Tits. We were like, "What's up, Scat Tits?" That was his nickname. That was what we called him. Like, because if you looked at his like nameplate on his blouse, you were like, "How the fuck do you say that?"
It's like, what is your name? Scat Tits.
So no, someone just said it one day. I don't know if it came to him from Boot. He was a Boot, but he was a Boot when we went to Afghanistan. Like he deployed to Afghanistan with us. But we called him Scat Tits. That was his nickname. And that's just what everybody referred to him as, was Scat Tits. And he was fine with it. It wasn't like, "Oh, guys, stop it. That's not my name." Because you'd be like, "What's up, Scat Tits?" He's like, "What's up, bro?"
There's one guy, his last name was actually Gaylord. And so
there's nothing you can do with that.
No, but that's what they called him. And he was lower enlisted. So if you were not in NCO yet, you just got called by your last name. So now somebody comes out the back of the company, because the companies were like suites in a building, and down on Fort Polk, and then on the front side they had like where you put the guide on and held your ceremonies and stuff at a company level, and then out back is where everybody parked, and you had huddles, and the first sergeant commander or whatever had parking spaces. So if somebody comes out and they need him, and if he's at the smoking tree right there, they're like, "Gaylord." So WLC, the NCO school right there, after it was PLDC, and then they changed it. They changed the name. So if you wanted to become a sergeant or get your E5, you had to first go through that school. And our NBC NCO was going through it, and she was this tiny little girl, and they had like a company formation, so probably 200 soldiers in formation out there, and this guy steps out and is like, "Gaylord, come here." So the whole company heard it, and they just started fucking laughing. Everybody was laughing, and she steps out of formation and turns around and starts yelling at him, "That's his name. Don't make fun of him. That's his name."
That's the army for you. Is there someone
they're
like
that? That actually makes this worse.
Yeah.
Like, we were kind of laughing because we thought random dude over there was calling random dude over there Gaylord, but now you mean to tell me like he has to, because that's his fucking name?
First of all, in the Marine Corps, I don't know if it's now, but when I was in the Marine Corps, if someone like did something like that, nobody would step out and be like, "That's his name. Leave him alone." Nope, that would not be a thing.
Well,
we sure as shit wouldn't laugh in formation. I'll tell you that. We would have gotten lit the fuck up for that shit.
Well, yeah, but I feel like probably 70% of the time I was in the Army was standing around, being in a formation, waiting for something. So just because you're in formation doesn't mean you were called to attention yet.
No.
Somebody said, "Fall in," and say you were. It was basically a pre-formation gaggle most of the time.
So we were in. If we were in formation, we were in formation. Like that was a thing.
No,
most of the time we were just in a gaggle. Or as the Marine Corps likes to say, the school circle.
School circle.
Which is probably the most childish thing you could name it, but that's what we called it.
It's weird.
We call it, yeah. So like you do formation, and like that's not where the CO would like pass word for the end of the day. Like you would literally be in formation for like 30 seconds. Like you'd be, "All right, company of 10. Hi, everybody 10. First sergeant, all present or accounted for, blah, blah, blah." And then the CO would be like, when you hear dismiss, form school circle. And like they go dismiss, and everybody would circle around the CO.
So we would do that for like a Friday safety brief or whatever.
Safety briefs are the gayest thing ever.
Don't beat your wife. Well, I feel like if the Army would have caught on quicker, they would have realized that if they just sent everyone home wearing their PT belt, they would have significantly reduced the number of incidences over the weekend, as opposed to having an actual safety brief.
My favorite thing out of any safety brief was one of my first sergeants went, "Remember, Marines, if you send your little Marine into the bush, make sure he's wearing his Kevlar."
Nice.
And I was like, "I'm going to use that."
when I first got to Fort Polk. So I had just come from basic training and AIT. So in my mind, it's like, this is what the rest of my life is like. I do what I'm told, and if I don't, I get yelled at, and everybody's high strung, and you have to act right and dress right and say hua and stuff like that. And I get to the unit, and it's not like that. So I'm still kind of figuring out how to act.
First of all,
and they hold a safety brief, and the company commander goes, I forget what this guy's name was, but he was this tiny little mechanic, and he goes, Sergeant so and so, what's the safest sex? Your hands, sir. I fucking lost it, man. I was like, that.
So
okay,
yeah.
so
before we dropped to the fleet, we would get like, I knew about like what a dick skinner was, like, because the big thing was, all right, if you have a question, go ahead and throw that dick skinner up in the air, right? Like you're like, oh, this means your hands. That's what that means.
Oh, that makes sense.
I get it.
I see what you did there.
But like when we would do safety briefs, yes, I will agree. They were the shittiest fucking thing ever. Like, and so what was funny was the CO we always give in the Marine Corps. I don't know if it's the same in the Army, but like the way an officer talks to an enlisted guy versus a senior enlisted guy talking to a enlisted guy is night and day.
100%.
So the officer, the CO, is giving his safety brief. Is like, all right,
and
guys.
This is what he just spent all day in on his computer building a slideshow.
No. He wasn't. He in the Marine Corps, it was like 30 seconds. It was like, don't drink and drive.
Don't beat your significant other.
Yeah, don't go home, beat up your wife. Don't drink and drive. See you Monday, 03. First sergeant, you got him. And then all the officers would go off. And so first sergeant would just stand there and just watch the officers walk away. And so first sergeant was the one who's going to give you the liberty brief, the safety brief for liberty. And he's like, all right, motherfuckers. Like, you're like, oh shit, here we go. He's like, all right, last week and we had 3 fucking DUIs. Like we had 2 bar fights. Like he would go in and list everything bad that happened the previous week. He'd be like, listen, you fuckers. I don't want to get a fucking phone call at 1 a.m. and a goddamn Sunday morning while I'm trying to bang my wife. All right. Like you just be like, yeah.
Would they do creative shit if they had to pick you up? So he had one that followed a guy back to the barracks in his Jeep. So that
you didn't call for no. You never called the staff NCO to come pick you up when you were drunk out in town. Absolutely not.
Not out. Well, not anywhere. Necessarily out in town, but anywhere. I mean, on post, the MP station is going to call your unit. Oh, it doesn't matter if you call them or not. Yeah, they're fucking coming.
Yeah. So if
post policy is first sergeant or higher.
Yeah. So
then it doesn't matter if it's
you would get in a severe amount of trouble if MPs picked you up for drink. But like, I thought you meant like if I was a Marine out at a bar or at a party or at someone's house and got shit faced, would I pick up the phone and call like my staff sergeant and be like, I need a ride, staff sergeant, I'm drunk.
If somebody got picked up from the MP station, because
someone got picked up from the MP station.
So we would have to release them. And 99.9% of the time, if we were releasing a service member, it had to be a minimum of an NCO, a minimum.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'd luck out and it'd be like their corporal buddy that they could call and get to come. But sometimes it was like, for this offense in this incident involving these people, like there's an SOP. So it would have to be like battalion sergeant
don't know how
major.
The Marines.
So you've got a fucking command sergeant major coming through the door, and this guy's like a PV2. It's like
fairly certain that if you got busted by the MPs on base, the MPs then called your OD, whoever the OD was, and the OD then would get the duty driver, drive down there, grab you, fill out a report.
Most of the time, back. What would end up happening?
That was if it was anyone who I knew got in trouble on base. That's always what happened.
Okay, so they just didn't have an SOP like the Army, because in the Army, if it required a first sergeant or higher, your OD, or we called staff duty.
So we had an officer of the day.
Yeah,
and then we had then all the barracks had their own like duty NCOs.
Yeah, we called that CQ or charge quarter. So it'd be like a little gopher, like lower enlisted, and then an NCO. But you couldn't send those people if the incident like.
No. Like you had officer of the day who was in charge of for the battalion.
Say it was like a serious theft. of a certain amount, or it was involving some sort of narcotics, then maybe instead of just releasing them, it would have to be like a command sergeant major or higher. And so that guy is not working staff duty.
So we had, so if I can remember this correctly, we had officer of the day and so we had an OD and an AOD, usually an officer and a senior staff enlisted guy.
Yeah.
And they were in charge of the entire battalion. And then in each barracks, so from there, you would have 4 companies, and probably separated between 3 barracks. And each barrack would have its own duty NCO and A duty. Duty NCOs could be, they typically were NCOs, but if you didn't have enough NCOs in your company, you'd be Lance Corporal and you'd be on duty for 24 hours a day. And then, so the OD would walk around to the barracks. You'd have to report your post. And so he would also have what's called the duty driver assigned to him. So basically the duty driver, I think I was in the 4 years I was in the Marine Corps, got a duty driver once. And that was when I was in EAS platoon. And my platoon commander was the officer of the day, and was a butter bar. And I was just like, I can't remember that guy's name. And I was just like, hey, sir, how's it going? I'm going to sleep right here on the couch if you need me. I just like laid out on his couch in his office. I was like, yeah, I'm getting out in 3 months, bro. I don't give a shit. Like, I was like, I don't care. Like, if you need me to drive somewhere, and he would like come over and be like, hey, we need to go do this. I'm like, oh, all right, sir, let's do this. I'd grab the keys of it was a cargo van. I mean, it was a big van, like a church van. And you would jump in that thing, you drive to wherever the fuck you were needed, do whatever you needed to do, and then drive back. And the great thing about being the duty driver is that was your only billet. So if you had to take a working party to, like, let's say regiment or division or whatever, to like clean the grounds because your battalion was like the duty battalion that week or whatever, you would literally gather up a working party that your duty NCOs would select, usually boots. And then you drive those fuckers out to wherever the duty was, and they would go out and do it. You would just sit in the van and just watch them.
Like, if I get a call,
I'm hey man, this is my post.
Duty driver, like, in case they need me.
Yeah, I am fire watching this vehicle right now. That is what I'm doing. Like, that is straight me. Those guys are picking up trash. You need to talk to them.
So that vehicle that would have been used for the battalion, we would use, they would get somebody, or somebody would like drive us over after we drew weapons, because our 9 mils came from our arms room, but we would have to start shift over at the MP station, because that's obviously where we got our patrol cars from. So they would use that van to take us. And what would normally happen if we didn't have enough people is the NCO or the patrol supervisor would get it, drive us over there, hand his 9mm off, drive it back, hop in his POV, and drive back to the MP station. I would say it was probably a mile away, maybe 2. So it wasn't a big
deal. You guys aren't
deal.
walking that shit? Come on, fucking pansies.
Well, yeah, we were, because they messed up the van. I could be wrong, but I want to say eventually one of the seat belts got cut. And so they were like, look, we've had enough. It's not getting signed in and out and inspected properly. It's not getting refueled.
Oh, no, we had a log book we had to fill out.
We had a log book.
Like, you didn't fill. So when I remember because I did duty NCO
fill it out, but the thing is, it just gets to a point where maybe the sergeant major comes down and you have the entire list of the deficiencies. You know exactly who did it, but once the shit is broke, it doesn't matter who's responsible for it. It's broken.
Yeah.
And so they were like, no more using the van. So we started walking. And one day we were walking over there, and it was halfway through the parking lot, and we heard
and that was
we turn around, and we witnessed this Mustang just lose control and eat a foam pole. And then to top things off, I want to say we were going for either day shift or swing shift. So it's the middle of the day. This isn't like nighttime, and he was DWI.
Nice.
It's like, holy shit.
So when we did duty, we were duty for 24 hours.
I'm talking about us like going on shift.
Oh, no. So we would do
what you're talking about is what we called staff duty. So it would have been the same.
Yeah. So you did 24 on and then 24 off, which was awesome. So, but I quickly learned how from my senior Marines when I was a boot, when I like the first 2 weeks or whatever I was in, they had my platoon was the platoon on duty for the week. It was our turn to be the duty platoon, which means we had to clean the company office, provide phone watch. Yeah, that's a thing. Phone watch, which is where you go to the company office, you sit at a desk in the corner and there's a phone. And when it rings, you answer it and read a script. And then you direct the call.
So I feel like that would have been
like a secretary
for us, except we didn't man that desk during the day because there were people in the office and we had 42 alphas.
No, we manned it during the day. It wasn't manned at night. It was manned during the day, during company office hours.
That's weird because as far as the company number,
staff NCO or officer getting their ass up from their desk in the company office to walk 10 feet to answer a fucking phone. But that's what privates and PFCs are for.
Right. But that's what's weird to me about it is like that phone, if you look at a call roster, because like as MPs, we had access to every single person.
Well, this is the difference because you're talking MPs. I'm just talking from
this would be an Army thing. So each unit would have a company phone number.
Yeah.
But then the phone you're talking about would have been a CQ phone number. So if you wanted to call the unit during the day, you would call the company number. You'd probably get the PAC clerk. It's 42 Alpha. That's literally their job.
We didn't have that.
Paperwork and phones. That's what blows my mind about that.
We didn't have that.
Like then of course, each first sergeant, each commander, everybody with any rank and a desk had their own phone.
Yeah, that was what was crazy to me, was that there was a phone on every desk in the company office.
And instead of simultaneous ring where whoever gets to it first answers it.
Yeah, so if the BC, no, that's not how it was. If the BC needed something from Fox Company, he would just call Fox Company office and it would ring that one phone.
Your job,
and whoever was on the other end was pick it up, listen to what the orders were, relay the orders, follow one of my 7 general orders, and scream commands to the next post over. But like, what is it? Set 9 general? I can't even remember how many general orders there are.
That's crazy. We had 3. The Army had 3.
7 or 9. I can't remember. This is going to bother me. I still have my book of knowledge. I'm going to have to go pull it out of the attic because I forgot how many general orders.
That's exciting. I kind of want to see what that looks like.
With the book of knowledge?
Yeah.
I got it in the attic. It's a whatever.
The Army had 3. I say had because I don't know. They changed the PT test when I got out, which
they changed the PT test as I was getting out. Or were they added to the PT test?
Reading what I'm seeing, it was not a good idea for them to do that. But I'm not in it anymore.
They changed in the Marine Corps. You have the PFT that everybody did, but then they introduced by the time I was getting out the CFT, which was like the combat fitness test. And so like the infantry guys, I was one of these guys that had to like test this fitness test out. And it was the stupidest motherfucking test ever. Like I can remember because there were our battalion guys were there like, do you feel like it was a pass or fail? Like you're supposed to be able to do a minimum of this. Like we had an ammo can, you just had to do the shoulder presses, and they're like the minimum standard that we think should be is 72 or 42 or whatever the number was. And so we all kind of collectively looked at each other and we're like, all right. And we literally did 42 and put it down. Like that was like, they were like the minimum time on this like 850 meter sprint or whatever is this. And it was like, okay. And like everybody crossed the line. Like at that point, like we were just like, this is the most idiotic fucking thing.
They set it up wrong because they told you the answers. So you're not getting scored. It's just pass or fail.
It's pass or fail.
And
we were like, well, what's fail? Like that's like we were asking like, well, then what is fail? Let us know where that gauge is. And so they would tell us. They'd be like, oh, this is where fail is. And we'd be like, all right. Then we had to do like, and I remember someone, and I can't remember if this guy was in our unit or not. I think he was. And he asked, he was like, so what do you think this, did you like it? Is it simulate combat? And all of us were like unequivocally like, no, we're the only thing this is simulating is we're in boots and we're boots and utes right now. So we're wearing our boots and we don't even we just have our t-shirt on. So boots and our regular pants and a t-shirt. And I'm like, this is not what combat fitness looks like. Like, if you want to make a combat fitness test, fucking throw on our PPE and let us go fucking do a stretcher run. Because that's how we used to PT. Like, in fact, they changed the rules to say, like, so when I first came in, if you want to do a stretcher run, you could do it. Like, you didn't have to fill out any extra paperwork. You just grabbed the stretcher from your company office and you could do it as a squad size element.
I remember doing those.
Yeah.
Like early on.
Like those were, and that was a thing. Well, we came home from Iraq and the rule became, oh, you can't, if you're going to do a stretcher run, you've got to get like you've got to fill out like you got to get approved. A freaking Humvee's got to follow you, like with a corpsman in it. And you're like, the fuck is this shit? Like, anyway, so, yeah, it was fucking stupid. So, but when we did the CFT, we were like, no, this is the lamest shit ever. This is like, they gave us the blue body grenades.
Yeah.
And they were like, you just have to try and throw it in that little box. It's like 10 yards away. And they literally just like put tape on the grass. And we're like, try and hit the box. And the box is like 5 yards long. And we were like, we weren't even doing the whole how you're supposed to throw a grenade. We're like underhanding it. Like 10. You didn't specify how the grenade had to be thrown. You just said, get it in the box.
So
it's in the box.
They called the new one, and it sounds like the Army is just like 5 or 10 years behind the Marines, but they call it the Army Combat Fitness Test. Yeah. So
we had to like buddy carry and buddy drag and then ammo can carry. We were like, what the fuck are we doing, man?
We used to do stuff like buddy carries and ammo cans. Like, I remember Fort Polk. PT at Fort Polk was so much better than when I got to Fort Hood. Because we used to do stuff like that. We would do combatives for PT. We would do, they would break out the playing cards and each card like.
So in the Marine Corps, the better the PT was, the smaller the unit. So like if you were doing a platoon sized PT, it was going to like as it got smaller and smaller, it got better and better.
I think
like, so if you were like doing a company run, it was going to be lame. You weren't going to get anything out of it.
Fuck yeah.
If you did like company wide PT. Like you were just kind of like, I'm not going to get broken the fuck off. It's fine. It's whatever. Like I remember at one point they brought out like these CrossFit girls who were like they brought like a truck and they like, the truck turned into a stage and they were doing this. And we're all standing there like, really? They're like, all right, it was literally like a mix between like CrossFit and like aerobics. And at one point we're doing these like rotational exercises. And I'm like, fuck it. I had cigarettes in my back pocket. I just pulled the cigarette out and started smoking. I'm like, I'm just waiting my turn. My CO was like, go take a fucking lap around the barracks until I get tired. And I'm like, all right, at least I'm going to get something out of that. And I was like, I didn't tell him that, but that's what the voice of and I just started running around the barracks, the 4 barracks that were laid out there. And I was just running around, just booking it. Like I got like a 2-mile run out of it. I was, and the CO was like, you feel better now? And I'm like, yes, sir. Like, got it, bro.
That's funny.
But like, yeah, the smaller size, like the smaller, like when we got like squad PT was always like a kick in the dick. If I ever did fire team PT, like fire team PT was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, especially when I was a boot, like my team leader as a boot, he was just like, I'll never forget. He's like, all right, we're doing team PT tomorrow. I'm like, show up. We're going to do green on green. We're like, all right, cool. So we came out 5:45. All right, no, yeah, 4:45 for 5 a.m. We're all standing in the quad, just the 4 of us. It was a 4-man fire team. And he's like, all right, y'all ready? And we're like, yep. He's not even like, all right, jump down. We're going to start stretching everything. He's like, follow me. And he just took off running. And we're just like chasing.
Those kind of NCOs, man, those kind of leaders.
Fucking, he just took off. We're like, oh shit. And we just started running.
It's like, fuck.
And we just started running. And like, he set a good pace. And so we ended up running like 3 miles. And we're just like, oh, this is going to be a 3-mile run. Like, no big deal. Like, so we do 3 miles. And we're like, hey, we're done. We're like, no, get on your face. And we just started doing push-ups. And then for the next 3 miles, we did 1/4-mile intervals. And we would stop and we were at full sprint for a 1/4 mile to a 1/2 mile. He would just take off on full sprint and we'd like stop at a pull-up bar and just be like, fucking get on the pull-up bar and start pulling. and then we do another sprint. And we hadn't turned around at this point. Like we had run 3 miles, then run like another half mile out, and then like did like working like some kind of form of like body exercise, and then kept running that way. And then we had to do Indian runs. You know what Indian runs are, which is the stupidest thing with 4 guys because you're constantly sprinting.
Yeah.
So where you start in the back and you run up to the front, you like, yeah. So we were and we did that for like 6 miles back. We got done. And I looked at him and I was like, that was probably the best PT I've had in the Marine Corps yet. He was like, yeah, man.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. He's like,
don't say I never gave you.
He's
anything.
like, go shit, shower, and shave, and go grab chow. We're like, Roger that, Corporal. Like, we're like, all right, cool.
We had a platoon sergeant would do something similar. So we would do squad or platoon PT was most common, but maybe we would do squad PT and the platoon sergeant would just go with that squad, and we'd run, and 2.5, 3.5 miles later, you know, would block off the road for the run. You get down there.
Oh, River Road was all between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. You could not drive down River Road on Camp Lejeune because that's where everybody was PTing, at least on the hospital point side. That's where all the units would go and do their runs. So if you were driving at 7 o'clock in the morning, all the MPs were just lined on every side street leading off of River Road because they just like the infantry guys is where they come and run. Like, so we're just going to block it off. On Fort
Polk, I feel like they just, I don't know what they put up. I don't remember.
They were just patrol cars. They would just put like a construction cone down, and then they would just have some guy standing with a vest there, and he would just be direct turning traffic around.
So that's what they used at Fort Hood. They had actual road guards. That was assigned by the battalion.
This was done by, I think, the entire division because so hospital points where the infantry guys were. So you had 2-2, 1-2, 3-2. I think 2-7 or the 7th Regiment was up there. Yeah, that's where most of the infantry guys at Camp Lejeune were at Hospital Point. And so that section of road where all those regiments were up and down the road, they would just say, go block that shit off starting at 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. and no traffic's allowed on the road because all the infantry guys from all the barracks would just come. And this is like a 4 or 5 mile section of road or some shit.
That's crazy.
All the infantry guys would just go. Like, it was not uncommon to see like a platoon, and it was always so quiet, which was really weird. You'd never heard, like, if you saw someone doing a form run, like a company run from another battalion or something, they weren't like moto singing. They weren't like left, right, left. It was none of that. It was just quiet. It was just a run. Because that was the infantry for us. Like, the infantry guys let the pogues go out and do their moto chants. Like, that's a pogue thing. Infantry guys don't do that. Like, we run all the time.
Crazy.
Like that. We don't do that. Like, when we had to go do like the Memorial Day, we would do more division runs for like Memorial Day.
Yeah.
They would you would hear like all the pogue units, like doing all these different chants up and down. And it's a long ass line. It's an entire division of Marines running from the parade grounds down to River Road, then down to the helo pad and back. And you would just hear sections of it just quiet as a mouse as they're running.
That's crazy.
And you were like, those are infantry guys. Like, because the infantry guys, if you were 03, you weren't fucking chanting.
I never paid enough attention because obviously the Army is huge and Fort Hood is even bigger. Like, so we had a shit ton of infantry, but I never paid enough attention to notice.
I don't know if the Army guys do that or not. I don't think they
talked about. No, because you know what? When I went through WLC for like the 5th time on Fort Hood, the guy I connected best with, so we would say battle buddy, but he was really just the one person who, because everybody had to go through this school to get promoted, but I was like, I'm going to get commandant's list. Like, I'm going to get the best scores for everything. And he connected with me and was like, yeah, I want to do the same thing. So I was like, cool. So we studied together on the weekends. I would go to his house. After chow, we were the only assholes coming out. You would come out from like where you put your dishes in. the exit, and then we would sprint up the hill to where we were going to hold formation, knock out 20 push-ups, and then get ready for formation. And we look like fools because once you're permanent party in the Army, you're not running anywhere anymore. And it's like, what are these idiots fucking sprinting up here for? But I was like, I'm going to get the best score ever. But he sang cadence with us, and he was infantry. So
yeah, no, we never, like, I don't know if that was just my company thing or my battalion.
Feel like
but it was Marines. It was definitely noticeable when you would see
runners and just silence.
Dogs heard something. I don't know what they heard. My guard dogs are on alert right now.
A silent formation of runners. That's weird.
Like you would see, like the only time, like I'll never forget this. We were doing, it was that Memorial Day division run, and I was a boot, and we're running. And so the first part of the division had made the turnaround at the 1.5 mile marker, and the division commander was coming back. So we were literally passing each other on the road like this. Yeah. It's a 3 mile long formation run we're doing. And so here comes the commanding general of the 2nd MARDIV and the sergeant major. And I never forget, my platoon sergeant just like, shit, they're coming back. Who knows and shit? Like he literally looked at the formation because we're so far back that we're in the slinky part, where like we'd be walking for like 100 yards and then we'd sprint for like 20 and then we'd walk. And it was the stupidest thing, but he goes, holy shit, they're coming. We've got to be Moto. We got to chant, right? Because you don't want to pass by the CG as he's running and be like, who are those fuckers not saying anything on this day? Like he's doing this to be much
sound off.
Like, yeah, like you don't want to be that guy. Off. So I just remember my staff sergeant going, does anyone remember any fucking Moto runs? And no one said anything because no one wanted to get out and like do the chant. And this one kid was like, I do. And we're like, oh man. And he was a senior Marine. And we're like, oh fuck, this is going to be a thing. Oh, she sees herself. She sees herself.
Who's that?
She's
that
looking
was
at her
funny
tail.
as shit.
But so this kid jumps out. This kid from Ohio jumps out. Great guy. Funny as shit.
Good dog.
And he just starts going. He's just like, left, right, left. What the hell's it left? Like, just like saying all this crazy shit. Like, I really want a cigarette as the general's like passing by. We're like, oh my God, we're going to get fucking lit up for this shit.
That's funny.
What are you doing? What are you doing? We had
one of the squad leaders I deployed with, one of his favorite ones was all the different liquors and what you can mix them with. It was like, my rucksack is on my back. I've got gin and juice. We'll get you loose. And that was and then when we got back from deployment, it was like you couldn't sing that one anymore. There was a bunch of marching cadences that
and that's why
we didn't do a lot of marching cadences.
We did
permanent party, but we did it when we went through school. And
yeah, like, we did it for school.
Yeah, so I did.
But I had this instructor at infantry training who did the dun 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 dun. Dun. Oh. He did that as we were marching down the road to Chow. He was doing left, right, left, right, left, right, left.
Oh, shit.
Left, right. That's what he did all the way to Chow. And we were, and like our heels. Yo, it was very impressed. We were all smiling like nerds. We're like, fuck, yeah, this guy is awesome. But he was doing that. He was also the asshole on the 25 mile, 30 mile forced marches where he'd be like, every 5 minutes, he'd be like, it's just over the next hill. It's just around the next curve. And you would just be like, shut the fuck up, Sergeant. No one cares. Just let me walk here until we stop walking. Like, stop telling me it's just around the corner because all you're doing is building me up with false hope.
Because it's not.
Because it's not. Stop
and
it.
We know it's not.
It's not. Stop fucking with us. But yeah, he was...
That's some shit I would do.
Yeah.
I did so in WLC I did the Club and the Baby Seals cadence, and I got in trouble for it. Because it was like, it came a certain point where it was like, if it said certain things or implied certain things, you weren't allowed to call that cadence.
Yeah. So at boot camp so we had family day. I don't know if you guys had that at boot camp.
Yeah.
So like the day before you graduate from boot camp, your families come and see you. You can take them around base and you can hang out with them.
This is going to be good.
But in the morning we all start with a Moto Run. And that's what I ended up calling these, where you do the chants. And so you just run around pretty much, and the families are all there, and you're like doing your little form run. And drill instructors are basically calling out the cadence, the chant. They're doing the moto stuff. And there was a platoon in my series where all the this was their last class. And so they gave zero fucks. Like, they were like, after tomorrow, we're done being DIs. We're going back to the fleet, back to our normal MOSs, give zero fucks. So they were doing, as soon as they rounded the corner, and this was like a mile form run. I mean, it wasn't like a long break off run. It was just kind of a thing.
This is what PT looks like.
This is what PT looks like. And they were doing chants like,
and then you get done and you tell your parents,
I heard,
like,
and they were the platoon. They were the platoon in front of us, I believe. And they were doing napalm sticks to kids, which is one classic one.
Classic.
My girlfriend is a vegetable. Also a classic.
Also,
as they're passing by all the families,
that one pops in my head on occasion. I'm like, I wonder if I like said some of this shit out loud, what people would think.
And look, this is what I'll say: if you're a veteran and you served in I would say from like 2006, 2007, 2008, if that's when you enlisted, to like Vietnam. Like if that was the span of time that you were in, you know what those chants are. Yep. Like you're like, yep. Now I know napalm sticks to kids. I know every word to that one.
100%.
Yeah. And so that was like the 2010, 2011 kids who came in, they don't know what that is.
Doesn't Yellowbird end kind of bad too?
Yellowbird.
Yeah. Yellowbird with a yellow bill was sitting on my windowsill.
I don't know that one.
Because at the beginning, it's just like you're talking about a bird and a piece of bread. But then at the very end,
that's like Yellow Ribbon. So that Yellow Ribbon's not really a chant. Around the town, she wore yellow ribbon. She wore yellow ribbon.
Yep.
Yeah. That one starts off and you're like, oh, that's sweet. And then it just takes a like nosedive for the dark real fast.
Oh shit.
We went there. All right. Wow.
Not see that coming.
Yeah. That one takes it. It might be the same thing. I don't know. I've never heard Yellowbird though.
I think one of my favorites is going into different places with different weapons.
Right. Like running through the jungle with my M16. That one.
So it talks about I went to the supermarket where all the people shop. I pulled out my Uzi or I pulled out my machete and I began to chop.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
And then left, right, kill.
Yeah.
Because it does supermarket. They do the playground.
You pretty much do any place like with that.
You're like, if you went out here, in the regular world,
in civilian
and you
world,
were just mumbling that walking around the store,
you'd be locked up.
Fucking cops called on you. Like,
you get locked up in a heartbeat.
This fucking guy.
Well, so here's the thing. So when I went through SOI and was learning how to do all the shooting, like not like rifle shooting, but like learning to shoot like the Modus, the 203, the 240, the 249, all of those weapons that were kind of like just learning to shoot them, like live firing those. They would teach you I don't even know what you would call it, what to say when you squeeze the trigger, when you pull the trigger. Like, so 6 to 8 round burst, right? So a sustained rate of fire is a 6 to 8 round burst.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what it was.
It was die motherfucker die is what we had to learn. So every time you squeeze the trigger on like a saw, you would say in your head, like we at infantry training actually had to yell it. So we're sitting there, we're like, so you pull the trigger, you're like, die motherfucker die. And then you release it. And then you would hold the trigger, you'd count in your head like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, however much. Or if you were learning how to do like talking guns, you would say that phrase. So you'd hear So you just hear a line of guys just like shooting machine guns and screaming while they're shooting, die, motherfucker, die. Well, apparently, I read recently that they're no longer teaching that phrase to Marines. They're making them say now, run, fuzzy bunny, run. And I'm like, are we at a point where we are so politically correct?
Oh my
where
God.
we are training people to go to war to kill people?
There is a purpose
for that. Like there is. There's
the whole reason
purpose.
during the bayonet course, which you will never use for anything.
If you're using a bayonet, like shit has gone
you go
so far south.
You go through the bayonet course in basic training. There's tires. Some of them are even have the wires coming from them to make them look like stick figures.
Oh no, we had the like sandbag things.
And you're doing the actions that they teach you. And the number one thing you yell out is kill.
Yeah.
Kill every time you do in action. Yeah. And most of basic training is just after you execute, you yell out as loud as you can. Kill. Yeah. And the purpose behind that is what we talked about before, where you were like, you had no feeling.
It's the psychology. It's breaking down the psychology of it.
Because if you get someone in the military that wants to serve and they're okay with all of it, but that whole aspect of this is another human being and I'm taking a life might become a problem to them. You want to try to eliminate that hesitation, especially if it's going to be your life or theirs.
Yeah.
So if I am now more okay with it because I yelled that through
well,
training.
it's not just, I don't think it's a question of getting you okay with it. I think it's just a question of getting your muscle memory and your brain to do with what your muscles are doing.
Well,
right. Because everything is I can remember the firefights that I had been in, like, I don't actually remember like the minute to minute of the firefight, right? Like training just kind of took over and I'm like, okay, like someone screamed out contact right. And I just knew turn to the right, drop to the ground, put my rifle in my shoulder and just start fucking going to town. Just send that wall of lead to my right.
That's I just sent you something that's very, very pertinent to what we're talking about.
So it can't be on the podcast is what you're saying?
Have you ever, well, yeah, but I wanted you to see it. So if I add it to the podcast I'll probably put it on our social media. You ever watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
My favorite thing is when they do where they're doing the lineup and they're doing they're with the 98 degrees or tell me why, like that song. Like, oh God, I gotta show it to you.
I feel like I've seen this. He said 98 degrees.
It's like it's one of the boy bands from the 90s. Like the Witnesses, like they were singing.
Well, it was 98 degrees.
It was 98. I don't know.
98 degrees wasn't a boy band.
It was a boy band.
I know zero about 98 degrees. I know a lot about Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
Whatever. It was one of those. Okay. I don't know. I remember the boy bands. They're all the same.
You should pull it up because I vaguely remember the scene you're talking about. But that's fine. I'll read it out loud and then maybe.
That's pretty fucking hilarious.
It says,
great. Who are we killing?
The Navy, or the Air Force, Department of the Air Force, and that's Andy Samberg. Well, listen, we need your help. And then Department of the Army and the Marines.
I love the guy with the Marine has a knife. He has a knife in his hand. Like, who are we killing?
That's that guy though. He plays that same fucking character. So what is the one? The League. The League.
Yeah, he's in the League.
He's in
fucking
the League,
hilarious in the League.
He knows.
What is his name?
The actor?
I can't remember his name, but he's fucking hilarious.
Fucking cool.
I love that. I won't do kids. That's a rule. But that rule is negotiable if the kid's a dick.
It's a dick.
That's the Marine Corps for you. That is the mentality of the Marine Corps right there.
100% summed up in a photo.
That is an accurate meme from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
100%.
Have you never really seen that? You don't know what I'm talking about?
I've seen it. I just don't remember it.
We're going to be searching on our phones during a podcast, and that's,
that was actually, I wish you had Facebook. I got it from the buddies group.
I want it that way. That's
yeah, but they're singing it.
Yeah, but like they had in the lineup, they're singing it, and Adam Sandberg's like, "Fuck yeah!" Oh my God, I forgot you were here. I'm sorry about your brother. Like, it's fucking hilarious. It's so funny. Brooklyn Night, like Andy Samberg. See, I like him. Like, I had never seen his stand up though. I've only known him from Saturday Night Live.
I didn't know he had.
I don't.
Andy
well,
Samberg?
in order to go, yeah, in order to be on SNL, you've got to do stand up at some point. I mean, I would assume.
I have no idea. I thought you just had to apply and get accepted.
No, I think.
Have you ever looked into getting tickets to that show?
No,
I did before they became.
I haven't political. Watched Saturday Night Live.
You have
in
to
so long.
You have to pay to become a part of a lottery.
Yeah.
So you can't even just buy.
Well, with the current cast, show. I mean, I wouldn't be entertained. I would not be entertained. Like they do some funny shit, like the iceberg thing that they did a couple of weeks ago was fucking hilarious because they did like it was the 100-year anniversary of the Titanic.
Nice.
And that shit was hilarious. Where they had the iceberg on like Weekend Update, and he's like, "Look, I'm just trying to mind my business."
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
That was fucking hilarious.
That's a commercial for the show.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, but about your brother, that was really sad.
Yeah.
My bad. I forgot you were here.
No, that was one of the funnier things in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But SNL, like they do some, like they're not as consistent with their skits as they used to be. I feel like their skits are like. You might get one really, really good skit out of an entire show.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is like, I kind of want to see it this week because it's got Keegan-Michael Key and I love Key and Peele. Like
they got good stuff.
I
just watched another skit by them. Dude, when
I go back and watch that show, like it's like Chappelle's show. Like I love Chappelle's show too. Like every so often I'll just be like, I haven't seen Chappelle's show.
So I just saw the one. You should have seen it if you watch their stuff, but it's he's telling so he sits down, he's like, "Hey, everybody's really still laughing about that joke you told him."
Oh, hypotenuse?
No. It worked. Oh, and he's like, but I haven't heard it yet, and I kind of want to laugh. So will you tell it to me? He's like, very, very hesitantly tells the joke, but as soon as he starts telling the joke, the other one starts laughing.
Yeah.
Just fucking, I know. Oh my God.
There were some really like golds in Key and Peele, like some gold sketch, like anything pretty much with Obama.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
Anytime, because he could do a spot on it. My favorite sketch I think that they did was the bitch. Like it was like on their first episode. I said, bitch. But you said, he's always looking around like he's like, but I said, bitch. But you said that, right? You said that.
But you said that.
And they like every time they're further and further away. It's hilarious.
In the fucking tree.
Yeah.
Honey, what are you doing up there? Oh, nothing.
Nothing, babe.
Yeah, we're just hanging out.
What's the other one that they did? The substitute teacher was really good.
But Jordan Peele, isn't he like a big time producer now?
Yeah, director, producer. He's done really good horror films.
I think I've seen
which is kind of
at least 2 of them.
Yeah,
that's
they were. Get Out was amazing.
Yep.
I think he wrote and directed that
one, and then
he did there was a follow up, and I haven't seen that one yet. But Get Out was fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big fan of horror flicks, but like,
and then
it was awesome. There were so
Michael
many.
Keegan Key. He was.
I just burped on the mic. I'm sorry.
It's all right. He was on a show that it was a little bit lame.
I know he did. There was a Netflix
show.
Yeah, there was a Netflix show that came out. Had like the girl. So I was a big How I Met Your Mother fan, and I'm not ashamed to admit that.
I love that show.
That show was fun. Well, the only reason I love that show is because of Barney. Doogie Howser. Doogie Howser as Barney is the only.
Neil Patrick
Harris
is the one reason to watch that.
Yeah,
I mean, not to mention the fact that throughout
and Jason Segel's pretty awesome too. But
yeah, agreed. Number 1, he has the playbook. Number 2, he references rules from the Bro Code, which is an actual book.
Yeah. Oh no, they did so many things that they tied into I
love that show.
So they did the like in the playbook, for example, right. So they did the playbook, and one of the plays was the Lorenzo von Matterhorn.
Oh Lord!
So you can actually go and Google Lorenzo von Matterhorn, and it's Barney Stinson. Like you can pull that shit up on Google right now.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you can Google that shit. It's fucking hilarious.
He is a real person.
Yeah. No, so the whole reason to watch that show was for Barney Stinson. A second was Jason Segel.
Yeah.
And then followed by Robin.
When the show came out, nobody knew who Jason Segel was.
I did because of Freaks and Geeks. Freaks and Geeks was an awesome show back in the day. Back in the night, like late 90s. You don't remember Freaks and Geeks? With Seth Rogen, Jason Segel, James Franco. It's like where they got their start was in Freaks and Geeks.
I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, that fucking show was awesome.
I had no idea.
The girl in it still, like, I can't remember her name, but like every time I see her, I'm like, Freaks and Geeks. Like, I remember that show. You remember, so Waiting, the new kid in Waiting, like the trainee kid, that was the main character. That kid, that guy was the one that played in Accepted. Yeah, he played. No, he wasn't in Accepted. You're thinking of Justin Long, also hilarious. No. I'm talking about Justin Long was in Waiting, but the training kid who never talked, who was up Ryan Reynolds' ass the entire time. Yeah. That guy, that actor was the main character in Freaks and Geeks as a kid. Dude, Freaks and Geeks, you like go back and watch it. I'll look it up, but you said late 90s. I mean, it's like I think it came out like 98, 99. So back to the religion conversation. Jesus, that was a while ago. I grew up in, if the church doors were open, we were there. So I got lucky. I think if I wanted to see anything PG rated, that it had to be screened by my parents first. And then nothing rated R. I didn't see Forrest Gump until I was in the Army. I went to go see Forrest Gump with my family. In theaters. Once I finally saw that off of Atlanta, the old theater that's off of Glenwood. I wasn't allowed to see it when it came out. So once I was in the Army and I found it, I bought it or I got it in Iraq or whatever, and I played it. And sometimes I would fall asleep on deployment with that. I went to go see Saving Private Ryan with my dad in theaters. That was what, 97, 96? So I was probably like 12, 13. God, yeah, such a good movie. Oh man, that's fucking. But that is probably the most accurate war movie I've ever seen. I can agree with that. That or like Black Hawk Down. And the only reason I would say Black Hawk Down was just because of how confusing they made everything with their shots. Right? Like, because like you don't really see the enemy all that much in that movie. Yeah. Like it's just like a collection of people and then just a lot of shooting. That's probably those are probably like when it comes to actual combat, I feel like those are the most accurate. Yeah. Braveheart's also good. I also like Braveheart. Braveheart's one of my favorite movies. I don't know if I've ever seen that or have you. Wait, you've never seen Braveheart? Don't do that. You've never seen Braveheart? Don't do that. Really? There are movies I've seen that you have not. I'm sure, but Braveheart, really? That's like someone being like, I've never seen Star Wars. I'm like, you're just not human then. How, like the original Star Wars? I'm not talking about all the Disney spinoff shit. Yeah, but I cannot hold it against someone if they haven't seen a TV show or movie. And Toya always thinks I'm doing that to her, but I'm not. I'm not holding against you. I just find it hard to believe that you haven't seen Braveheart. It takes zero effort to not do something. It doesn't take any effort to not go see a movie. It does take effort to go see one of my favorite movies and then shit on it. That takes effort. That does take effort. I don't know which one of your favorite movies is, but I will totally take a shit on it. I mean, a lot of what you've mentioned, I like. So, Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan. Snatch is another one. Love Snatch. Snatch? Yeah, Snatch is a good one. You should check that one out. Huh. It's a Guy Ritchie movie. It's like Jason Statham's first like big break movie. Huh. Fucking awesome.
Okay.
It's one of those quotable movies that like I can quote pretty much. I've seen it so many times that I can. I'm hitting a goal right now, apparently, for going up steps. Don't know how that's happening. I think this thing's broken. No, Snatch. You got to check out Snatch it because Guy Ritchie. This is like Guy Ritchie when he was like the English version of Quentin Tarantino. Like he's got multiple stories all going along at the same time, and they like brings them all together.
Yeah,
Snatch is a good one. You got to watch Snatch. It's got Brad Pitt in it,
man.
If that's a thing for you. And you can't understand what he's saying most of the movie, which is awesome. I think
one of my favorite Brad Pitt movies is
you're going to say Brokeback Mountain, and I'm going to smack you. Oh no, he wasn't in Brokeback Mountain.
I was going to say I didn't know he was in there.
I don't know.
I remember standing with my buddy in Walmart, and he had that movie in his hand. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" He's like, "My mom said it was a good movie," and I was like, "You need to go put that back."
My mom sent me.
Respect everything that your mother says.
My mom
not necessarily execute.
No, when I was in Iraq, you want to know what my mom did? She sent me the DVD copy of Jarhead.
Fuck yeah.
And I was like, I called her.
Fuck yeah.
I was like, Mom, I am a bored Marine. Because when I was in Iraq, there was not a lot. I mean, you were there. There was not from 2000. Like it was not the war that was in like 2006.
We had internet, right? So comparing your experience to mine.
But there wasn't a lot of, it wasn't very kinetic. Like we were in that transition of handing it back to the Iraqis, right? So there was not a lot of kinetic fighting going on.
Yeah.
And if any at all, there was like IEDs and suicide bombs.
Hearts and minds was common phrase.
Hearts and minds. We used to call it hand jobs, not HIMARS. That's what we used to call it. So we were pretty bored. I mean, we just worked. I mean, I worked out, went on patrol and sat on post. That's pretty much what I did. Like, that's pretty much my deployment to Iraq.
I thought you would like this movie.
Yeah. And I was like, Mom, it's about Marines being bored in Iraq. I'm a bored Marine in Iraq. I don't want to watch my life.
Mom, I could just set up a camera and then I can just watch that.
Yeah, exactly. That's essentially what you're doing to me.
I'll never forget when that movie came out because we went to the club when we were at Fort Polk, and some girl there, I don't know, I think maybe she was divorced from a service member at one point.
Right.
But she called me a jarhead, and I was like, you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what a jarhead is.
I'm not talking to you anymore.
I mean, it got so like the majority of that movie, and this is what I hate about Hollywood, is like they got so much of that shit wrong. Like, there's not a military movie out there.
Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there were some things that were right, but there was a lot of shit that was just wrong. Like, you're just like,
yeah,
really? Like, this is what you think the Marine Corps is? Like, really? Like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up, but it's fucked up in a different way.
Yeah.
This is the Veteran Talk Show. If you or someone you love is suffering as a victim of sexual harassment, sexual assault, needs help with addiction and recovery, or mental health and well-being, then please go to veterantalkshow.com/resources. This show is hosted, produced, and edited by Ryan Smelt. Our co-host is Joe Ballack, and a guest starring veterans.